For the longest time, I've already decided that it's almost impossible for me to go back to Android, simply because of the smoothness and reliability of iPhones and its iOS operating system, not to mention the seamless integration of its entire ecosystem. However, after trying out the vivo X200, I now started to question that decision because, to be honest with you, this is easily one of the best smartphones that I've ever tried, not just in terms of its amazing camera system, but as a complete all-around smartphone. And to think that this is not even the top-of-the-line Pro variant makes me even more excited. And yes, just the camera system alone makes this a very compelling option, especially for someone like me who loves photography. Now, honest disclaimer, this video is not paid. Vivo will not see this video before release, and in fact, I just borrowed this from Vivo just to experience it before deciding if I should get one. Spoiler alert, my wife and I have already decided that we will get this or the Pro variant when it becomes available here in the Philippines. But before that, let me share with you 5 reasons why you should get the vivo X200, and of course, a few considerations before getting one. So let's get into it. So without further ado, and probably also the reason why you're watching this and considering getting the vivo X200 is of course its amazing camera system, partnered with its feature-packed camera features. We've got a lot to talk about here, so please grab your snacks, sit back, and relax. The vivo X200 Non-Pro variant features a 50-megapixel VCS True Color main camera with a 1/1.56-inch Sony IMX921 sensor, a 50-megapixel Zeiss telephoto camera with a 1.5-inch Sony IMX882 sensor, a 50-megapixel 1/2.76-inch ultra-wide-angle camera, and a 32-megapixel selfie camera. By the way, before we start taking a look at a bunch of sample photos, I've already released a dedicated comprehensive walkthrough of the camera app of the vivo X200 with sample shots and comparisons of different sharpness settings and tons of informative details. So make sure to watch that after this so that you can get a better grasp of everything you can do using the smartphone. With that out of the way, starting with the 15mm 50-megapixel ultra-wide-angle camera, as you can tell, the images are perfectly usable. In fact, it's way better than most ultra-wide-angle cameras that I've tried in the past. It has a fair amount of detail, sharpness, and contrast, and with decent dynamic range. The colors are quite natural as well, but as you can tell, as we go through all of its available focal length, there's a slight shift or difference in white balance because, of course, we're on auto mode here. But yeah, the ultra-wide-angle camera is very good, and I'm quite pleased with its quality. By the way, just to give you an idea about which cameras are being used in different focal length, at 15mm, of course, it uses the ultra-wide-angle camera. At 23 to 46mm, it uses the main camera. And beyond that, it uses the telephoto camera. All of which have Zeiss T-Star lens coating for minimizing flare and reflections. And what I like about its camera system is that all are essentially usable, from ultra-wide-angle camera down to the telephoto camera up to 10 or even 20x zoom, which makes it an extremely versatile travel mobile photography smartphone and the very reason why we are highly considering it. Now, we also have a bunch of filters here and different tones and texture presets, but if you want to dive deeper into that, again, watch my dedicated walkthrough video for the camera app because we're going to focus more on the overall image quality in this video. Without a doubt, the 23mm 50-megapixel main camera offers the most natural image quality possible with a fairly laid-back image processing, with just enough sharpness and details while maintaining a good amount of contrast and, of course, balanced dynamic range. What I like about the images coming out of the 23mm main camera is that they really look natural and not overly processed. More on that later. This is also definitely the go-to all-around camera because of its natural field of view focal length of around 23 to 46mm. It also offers a better overall image quality compared to the ultra-wide-angle camera, and you can notice that it has additional details and contrast on complex objects such as leaves and foliage. However, I also noticed that if you zoom into the long-end 43mm focal length of the main camera, there is a huge jump in terms of image processing. It's sharper than I would have preferred, but I kinda expect that already because as far as I understand, this is an in-sensor zoom from that standard 23mm focal length. So yeah, and actually moving past 23mm up to the telephoto 70mm, the images are noticeably sharper, which may be good or bad depending on each personal preference. Now, speaking of the 70mm 50-megapixel telephoto camera, this is by far my favorite lens on the vivo X200 because of its image quality and overall versatility. It stands out the most using the portrait mode, and as you can tell, it produces stunning portraits with a fairly natural depth of field or focus fall-off that can rival any typical DSLR or mirrorless cameras. The edge detection for the most part is almost perfect, properly and naturally separating the subject from the background. Under the portrait mode, Vivo decided to use a more traditional 85 and 100mm focal length here so that photographers can have a similar and more familiar feel when shooting portraits. For indoor and environmental portraits, we have 23, 35, and 50mm using the main camera. But yeah, going back to the telephoto camera, as you can tell, it can definitely output pleasing portraits, may it be for full body shots or for close-up portraits. By the way, we have a bunch of options here for the Zeiss bokeh effect, and my personal favorite here is this Tagon. It offers a nice hexagon-shaped bokeh effect. Now, I can easily name a few advantages that the vivo X200 has over my mirrorless camera that can probably make me consider using this for traveling instead of carrying a bigger and heavier set of gear. First of all, I'm not a professional photographer and I don't need top-notch image quality for print and to send over to a client or what have you, so the image quality of the cameras on the vivo X200 is more than adequate for family and travel purposes. Second, there's essentially no shutter lag when taking pictures using the vivo X200, making it a very compelling option for taking photos of our extremely energetic toddler. Something that I'm having difficulties with using my mirrorless camera, especially in low-light environments. Granted, the image quality might not be the same, but I'd rather have the ability to capture the moment over image quality. Third is the overall workflow. With a pretty decent image processing of the vivo X200 or any Vivo smartphone for that matter, I no longer have to do any kind of post-processing. It's basically point, shoot, and share. Fourth is the overall cost. No matter how expensive the vivo X200 is, it is still by far a more affordable option compared to getting any mirrorless camera with a quite expensive lens. So yeah. I can name a bunch more reasons, but those are enough for me to consider this for family and travel purposes. Another reason why we're considering this is for attending events. For the longest time, my wife has been attending press events and using a mediocre smartphone, and I cannot tell you enough how many times I was disgusted and embarrassed to post the photos on our social media platforms, so this upgrade should definitely help with that. This is actually marketed for concert photography, and that's also the reason why we're considering the Pro version with a better telephoto lens over this non-Pro version. But if you don't need that, this should very well suffice. Now, I apologize for digressing over the topic, but going back to the telephoto lens, it actually has another trick up its sleeve, and that is the amazing super macro mode, which definitely blew my mind. I mean, look at these sample photos. I don't think I can take the same photos using my current mirrorless camera and lens lineup. You can even count each strand, which is absolutely insane. Yeah, granted, it's probably over-processed, but you can't deny the fact that it looks outstanding, right? In my honest opinion, I think these photos that I took of the birds at Estancia de Lorenzo using the vivo X200 are even better than what I got using my mirrorless camera in Bird Paradise, Singapore, and that's without having to carry heavy gear. That alone makes me confused about what should I bring next time I travel. Yeah, you can argue that the images are not as natural, but who cares? As long as it's pretty decent and more convenient, why not? Moving on, to 32 megapixel selfie camera is also pretty adequate. Though I wish it's also 50 megapixels for an all 50 megapixel camera system, but at least it shares the same characteristic of having a pretty decent edge detection for portrait mode, partnered with a fairly natural beautification filter that offers some pleasing selfies. Even on some busy backgrounds, the edge detection for the most part is spot on. So this is a video test or selfie video test for the vivo X200. So this is in portrait mode, so we're in 1080p resolution right now. Microphone test 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So microphone test as well. So this is a stabilization test, 4K 30 FPS, 1x. There you go. And now we have the ultra stabilization enabled, but we're limited to 2.8K resolution, also in 1x mode. Now, the second reason why you should consider the vivo X200 is the fact that aside from a pretty outstanding camera system, it's not a slouch either when it comes to performance. Powered by a MediaTek Dimensity 9400 processor with an Immortalis G925 GPU with 16GB of RAM, 512GB of internal storage, and a substantial 5800 mAh battery, rest assured that it is capable of pretty much anything that you throw at it. You can even extend the 16GB RAM to 32GB, taking advantage of the available space from the 512GB internal storage to act as a buffer for your open apps. So you can essentially open multiple apps at the same time without any issue. As per my experience, it feels smooth and snappy, and I don't feel like I'm compromising on performance compared to my iPhone 15 Pro Max. I mean, with an Antutu benchmark score of a whopping 2.5 million, that says it all. And with that, here are all the benchmark results that I ran for the vivo X200. In terms of gaming, it's safe to say that it can handle pretty much any mobile game out in the market as long as it is optimized enough. We also have a game assistant here wherein you can toggle between 3 available performance modes: battery saver, balance, and boost. You can also change the refresh rate settings here, network, and touch sampling rate. We also have a bunch of game tools here that you can take advantage, and my personal favorite here is the view enhancement, which makes the colors more vibrant. However, as expected, it still lacks an on-screen overlay for things like FPS counter, performance stats, and the like. But yeah, like I said, performance is something you need not worry about the smartphone. In Mobile Legends, all the maximum settings are available, which is nice to see, and gaming with balls to the wall settings is definitely an enjoyable experience. As you can tell, we're running at 120Hz as well. In Call of Duty Mobile, max graphics quality with max frame rate is available, but I chose to set it to ultra frame rate and medium graphics quality instead, to ensure the smoothest gaming experience possible. And indeed, it was a pleasure playing Call of Duty Mobile at 120Hz on the smartphone. The touch response feels really smooth and snappy, and you can definitely feel that you have some sort of competitive advantage here, or at least the confidence that you have a pretty reliable device. In Honor of Kings, all the max settings are also supported, which is good. You're not compromising on anything, and you're taking advantage of all the powerful hardware, including the 120Hz display. And like with my experience in Mobile Legends, gaming with this is really a fantastic experience. And I'm glad to report that even on Genshin Impact at the highest graphics possible and at 60 FPS, the gaming experience is super smooth and the visuals are of course stunning. This is one of the few instances that I can honestly say that this game runs quite smoothly without any compromises like setting a lower graphics quality or lower FPS. However, I was kind of disappointed to see that it only runs at 60 FPS in Real Racing 3, and while it still looks really nice graphics and performance wise, I wish it does support up to 120 FPS. By the way, thermal performance wise, it's also pretty decent. While it may feel warm to the touch after a long gaming session, it actually didn't go past 37 degrees, which is pretty good. I'd say as long as a smartphone doesn't go beyond 40 degrees, we're Gucci. Now, the third reason why you should consider the vivo X200 is the design and construction. It's actually not that complicated and fancy, but for what it is, it looks and feels pretty premium, especially with its aluminum frame and glass back. It doesn't feel cheap at all, which it should as part of the flagship X200 series from Vivo. By the way, as far as I know, at least here in the Philippines, the only variant available for the X200 is Aurora Green. It features a curvy design around the sides and corners. Even the camera bump at the back features some curvatures, which also helps with the overall comfort. In front, we have a uniform bezel all around with the selfie camera at the top center. Then at the left side, we have some curved edges and a couple of antenna lines. On the other side, we have the power button and the volume rocker and the same antenna lines. Up top, we have the secondary microphone, and then at the bottom, we have the SIM card tray, the primary microphone, the USB Type-C port, and the primary speaker. At the back, we have a sort of frosted metallic finish with the subtle Vivo logo at the bottom, and the absolutely massive camera bump up top, which I don't mind at all as long as they take amazing photos. We have 3 usable cameras here that we've already tackled earlier, and I guess a depth sensor. The vivo X200 is IP68 and IP69 dust and water resistant, up to 1.5 meters for up to 30 minutes, so it's definitely durable for day-to-day tasks. It weighs around 202 grams and is just around 7.99mm thin. Now, the fourth reason why the vivo X200 is a good daily driver is its outstanding battery life. With the substantial 5800 mAh battery and 90 watts flash charge technology, it can last up to 17.7 hours for continuous video playback and 9 hours of continuous gaming as per specifications. And it checks out with my own testing using the PC Mark Work 3.0 battery life benchmark. With 50% brightness and 50% volume, it lasted a whopping 20 hours and 40 minutes, which is more than enough to last you an entire day or 2 or even 3 if you're conservative. I was also able to charge it from 3% all the way to 100 for only around 1 hour and 9 minutes. So yeah, battery life is also something that you need not worry about the vivo X200. Finally, before I share with you a few considerations before getting the vivo X200, the fifth reason why you should get this is the outstanding display and decent speakers. The vivo X200 features a 6.67-inch 2800 by 1270 AMOLED display with up to 120Hz refresh rate and up to 4500 nits of brightness. It also has a pretty high pixel per inch density, offering a high-quality crispy detailed display with good color rendition, outstanding contrast and black levels, and pretty decent viewing angles. Now, it's not LTPO just yet compared to the Pro variant, but at least the Smart Switch feature works really well, switching between 60 and 120Hz depending on the application demand. And I'm happy to share that most default apps supports 120Hz as well, making the overall user interface experience super smooth. And as we've seen in the gaming part of this video, most games support 120Hz as well for the vivo X200. Aside from that, it also features a pretty decent stereo speakers, and while it doesn't feature any fancy volume booster, at least it can still get pretty loud without much distortion. Here's a quick sound test for you guys. Yo brodies, what's up? Today's video is a bit different. I want to give you a complete walkthrough of the camera app and all of its features for the vivo X200. Now, this can be boring, but can also be very useful and informative for those who really want to get the vivo X200.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go.
Alright, let me know in the comments below if those 5 features of the vivo X200 are enough for you to consider it. Or are you still looking for something specific that the smartphone is lacking, especially compared to its competitors? Drop it down below. I'm curious to know your thoughts. By the way, if you find any value in this video, or at least you find it informative, please consider subscribing to my channel. It will help me a lot along the way. If not, a like will be much appreciated. Thank you. Now, before pulling the trigger, let me share with you a few considerations that you need to be aware of about the vivo X200, especially in contrast with the Pro variant, which are also the things that we're currently deciding right now. First is the telephoto camera. While it's pretty decent at what it is right now, and I'm honestly perfectly satisfied with it, it bothers me to know the fact that the Pro variant has an even better 200 megapixel telephoto camera with a larger 1/1.4-inch sensor and higher 3.7x optical zoom. Perfect for what we're looking for, which is for events, photographing the stage from afar. But maybe this is something that you don't necessarily need, so you might just consider this more affordable non-Pro variant. Another thing is the lack of wireless charging. While it's not a total deal breaker for me, it certainly doesn't hurt to have this nifty feature when you need it. And lastly, if you really want the best battery life possible, you might want to consider the Pro variant with a larger 6000 mAh battery and a more efficient LTPO display. Aside from that, both variants are virtually identical in terms of overall specifications, including the processor. And there you have it guys, thank you for watching. Huge thanks to Vivo for letting me experience the vivo X200. Again, this video is not paid and I have to return this to Vivo. I'll put some links below if you're interested, and honest disclaimer, they are affiliate links, which is another way for you to support my channel. By the way, I've already asked Vivo if I can also experience the vivo X200 Pro, so hopefully they can make it happen. Thank you for watching, subscribe if you appreciate this video, and see you next time. Have a great day guys, you're awesome.